catch Jeff's work. So go to @JeffKerrCBS on Twitter/X. And also CBSSports.com is where you can check out Jeff's work on not only the Eagles, but the NFL in its entirety. Jeff, it's always good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you hopping on, and happy holidays to you and your family, first off.
Yeah, I wish the Eagles would be giving me a better holidays. I wish the NFL would be giving me a better holiday, too, because I feel like I'm working Christmas Eve.
I know.
It is what it is. It's part of the biz.
Yeah. No, you know what? The Eagles have given us indigestion for Christmas, and I didn't ask for that. Jeff, you had a great tweet yesterday. I think it was, and I think it was Seth Joyner reacted to it, which I love. But you put a tweet out there that, and this is in regard to the Eagles trying to sort of force offense, is my wording, force offense, not yours. But Jalen Hurts in the last 3 games, and I just read the stat to Tone and our listeners. But last 3 games, 25-plus yard passing plays, 1 for 11, 30 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 0 passer rating. Like, it's become pretty obvious here that either he or the coaching staff is telling him, or has gone overboard with this chunk play thing, rather than taking what's been given. Where do you fall on this, and what do you think's happening right now? And do you believe that they will get away from this, or is that just one of their core beliefs?
So how that tweet originated, I watch a lot of old Eagles games, watch a lot of film. I'm not an all 22 guy, but I rewatch broadcasts of the games, and I'm like just trying to figure out what they're doing during this 3-game losing streak that's so much different. And I'm like, well, they're doing a lot of chunk plays again, which Jalen Hurts had the highest passer rating on those same throws the first, 11 games of the season?
Yep.
So, and he was the best quarterback at that statistic last year. So I'm like, so maybe he's off somewhere. No, they're literally forcing it. It's 5-7 yards underneath. They're just not taking it. They're not taking the plays to Dallas Goedert. They're not taking these little swing passes to Kenny Gainwell, DeAndre Swift. That's who they should be going to right now. I don't think there's a narrative out there he's trying to force feed A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. I just don't believe that. You go to those guys because they're good, but they're clearly trying to get a deep play going that just isn't there. And you saw firsthand Quez Watkins. I think Reuben Frank was the one that pointed it out. On the last 5 plays Quez Watkins has been involved in, it's either been a turnover, interception, or a fumble. You just can't have it.
Yeah, Jeff, what does that speak to this team's overall philosophy and, their inability to, I guess, change and move with the current? Nick Sirianni said in his press conference, this offense has pretty much been the same, this year, last year, and the year before that. And some would argue, I would even argue, that this offense really hasn't evolved, as the quarterback has developed. What do you say to that notion?
I would 50% agree with him. So
Okay.
I believe the concept is the same. I talked to Tony Romo before the Super Bowl and during the offseason, and we were trying to figure out, how is anybody going to stop this offense, this multi-dimensional, multi-purpose offense where you have a quarterback who can basically run outside and is just as good throwing on the run as he is in the pocket. But I still think losing some personnel hurt. I was one of the believers in Miles Sanders. And again, look what I'm wearing here. So I'm clearly a believer in Miles Sanders, but they were a better running team with an up-down runner, a straight-up runner in Miles Sanders than they were with DeAndre Swift, who I think tries to cut a little too much. DeAndre Swift has been great for this team, by the way, but he doesn't have any help. And, I think they thought Rashad Penny was going to be Miles Sanders this year for them, and they just don't play him at all. I don't understand it. They're relying on Boston Scott. They're relying on Kenny Gainwell. And again, I like Kenny Gainwell, but I think they bought into some damage. I don't want to say damage goods. I think they bought into fool's gold with that postseason run last year and said, okay, yeah, Swift and Gainwell will work. Well, that's not working. But yeah, I agree though. I feel like the offense is kind of the same. You're right, Tony. I don't see it evolving. That's the issue.
That's a good point, Jeff. And I don't know if you got a chance to read. I thought it was very well done. Ben Solak did a piece for the Ringer yesterday. It's very in depth, and there's a lot of technical stuff as well. But if you can kind of sift through it, I thought it was very well done. By the way, props to him. But if you sift through it, one of his contentions is they're trying to run an offense with a healthy Jalen Hurts, where he is a running quarterback threat based off of what they did last year. And because Hurts isn't himself and doesn't provide that threat, teams don't have to defend them the same way. And therefore, it's also made them very predictable and one-dimensional. That's part of his theory. And there hasn't been an adjustment made on Nick Sirianni or Brian Johnson's end. It feels like Tone or Jeff and Tone and everybody else, to me, like it's like this worked last year. We're just going to keep doing it till it works this year. And it's like, no, man, you got to adjust at some point. And that I would get your sense of that, Jeff.
I would agree with Ben. It does feel like they're just trying to put, a square peg into a round hole right now. And it's not working. Look, I don't understand why you had one of the best pocket quarterbacks in the NFL statistically. That's what I love about social media, by the way. They tell you Jalen Hurts isn't a pocket quarterback when there's literally stats that right in your face that tell you he is.
Right.
I don't know why they just don't make him a pocket quarterback. Remember when he had the knee injury? He was like the best pocket quarterback in the league. And that was when I thought their offense was clicking. I don't know why they just don't go back to that. Say, like, hey, look, we're not going to do the RPO. We're not going to do the zone run. We're not going to do any of this stuff. We're just going to drop him back in the pocket. You're going to get quick passes off, and we're going to let DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert do their thing after the catch. You can use Julio Jones and Quez Watkins in that regard, too. It doesn't have to be just those main pieces. But, I seriously thought this team had a lot more depth going into the year, especially on offense, than it looks now. And I think that's part of the issue too. It's maybe they're not as deep as we initially thought.
Yeah, you're really seeing it on the defensive side. I mean, it's, with the injuries coming in, and I'm curious, Jeff, right, with all the controversy surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles over the past week, with Sean Desai, Matt Patricia, Nick Sirianni. I'm curious to know what was your spin on that whole situation that unfolded in Philly over the past week.
Well, the first thing I did was laugh, because I always tend to laugh when I get lied to straight in the face. No one wants to be called a liar. And Nick Sirianni pretty much said, well, no, I have full confidence. Really? You have full confidence? Is that why Matt Patricia is up at the podium yesterday? Because you have full confidence in Sean Desai? And look, I can tell you it was front office decision, and it was a players-led decision, because I know players on that team that thought that defense was confused. And I think it's confusing. If I think it's confusing, I'm sure an NFL player does. So I think the communication on the back end was terrible. I don't think he rotated enough guys. I think Sean Desai is a smart mind, but you know what they always say, guys? Sometimes the smartest mind in the room doesn't make the most sense. So maybe that was Sean Desai's problem, and they want to simplify it a bit and go to Matt Patricia. But didn't it feel like to you guys after Monday night, James Bradbury kind of threw Patricia under the bus when he said, well, it was man coverage?
I was playing sticks.
Yeah, I was playing sticks. I'm like, well, okay, are you kind of slamming Matt Patricia there? Or because he is a way better zone corner than he is a man corner.
I agree. He shouldn't be in man. Jeff, he can't do it anymore. I don't know how else to say it. Like he just doesn't have the ability anymore, the physical ability to do it anymore.
I would love to walk up to some of these guys when I'm in that building and just be like, look, I got numbers for you guys. Please read them. Please just look at them. You don't even have to listen to me. Just look at them. You're not helping your players. James Bradbury has 110 passer rating. Quarterbacks have 110 passer rating when targeting James Bradbury in man coverage. So let's put him in man, because that makes a lot of sense. Darius Slay's the same way. Like, Slay is having a great year, but he's not as good in man as he is when he's in zone. It's just fact. I don't know why this team doesn't like to use zone that much. Maybe it's something I'm not seeing with Sidney Brown or Reed Blankenship or the linebackers. They're just getting shredded in the middle of the field because they use zone. But I will say this: they got to start playing these young guys a lot more. They're doing it with Brown. They got to do it with Ringo. I think Josh Jobe has been kind of passed over by Ringo and Eli Ricks, by the way.
I mean, that was one of the miscalculations, right? The fact that this team didn't play the young guys early enough, and now you're kind of expecting them to kind of hit the ground running at this point in the season, where things are kind of already, unfolding and essentially unraveling. And then on top of that, with the decision to demote Sean Desai, when, in my opinion, I believe it's a firing masked as a demotion. Why now? Why did it take you this long to do it? If that was on your mind, and another thing, Jeff, why keep the man in the building? I've never seen a situation where you basically fire a guy and tell him to just watch his replacement do his job. I don't think I've seen it before.
It's really confusing. I'll say that. So week 8 was when their defensive problem started. When they had that bad game against Washington, they were able to pull it off. And I said, on the outside looking in, it makes sense when you put these numbers up. When you're 32nd in the league in pass defense, in yards per play, in 31st in points allowed, yards per game, 32nd, third down, 32nd, red zone, 32nd. That justifies getting fired after 14 games. And I don't know why you just didn't say, see you later. We got Matt Patricia. I don't care what Sean Desai thinks anymore right now. And you know what they're saying? It's a scheme, and Matt Patricia's calling the plays. I'm like, well, no, I'm sure Matt Patricia's got some of his ingredients in that recipe somewhere. So I just don't know why Sean Desai's here. It's gonna be really weird just even seeing Sean Desai. It's like, did they just not want to admit that they failed and they picked the wrong guy?
Yeah, it is bizarre. And I there's a part of me that feels for him where he's just like, and I get it, he's still collecting a very nice check, but it's got to be very awkward to say the least. Jeff, how different do you think it'll look? The first game's tough to gauge because everything's sort of just, he's thrown in there, but going forward, like starting this week, how different do you think things will look schematically or player use under Patricia than what we saw with Desai?
I think we're going to start seeing more of the young guys. I think that was part of it. Not Matt Patricia. Sean Desai was not playing the young guys enough. And when he did is when he was desperate to play them. Like Josh Jobe. Josh Jobe had to play because James Bradbury was injured. Or Eli Ricks had to play the slot because they didn't have anybody else. By the way, he's not a slot corner. I don't know why they play him in the slot, but desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. But you saw more of Keely Ringo. You saw more of Sidney Brad. You saw more of Eli Ricks. So I think they're starting to get an evaluation of, hey, maybe this is what we got to target in the draft next year. So I think you're going to see that. I want to see more rotating of the pass rushers, more Brandon Graham in the mix, which I thought we saw a little bit more Sunday or Monday night. I didn't see the full snap counts yet, but I thought just from the naked eye, he played more. I think they need to do more of that. I think they need to play more Milton Williams. Again, they do play him enough, but I think some of these guys, they got to keep this defensive line fresh. I think that's the key. That's what upset me about this game on Monday night. This defense was built to have a lead and to get the quarterback in the fourth quarter. They didn't get the quarterback, and look what happened. The formula isn't working like it did last year. And I know a lot of people in Arizona, a lot of Arizona media, some Arizona players, and they go, oh, you guys miss JG over there, don't you? And I said, well, the fans don't, but I think the Eagles might.
Gandwagon, Jeff.
The Gandwagon. Lord mercy. Listen, I'll tell you this, right? This team, they through 3-game losing streak, you lose to the Giants. Oh, I'm sorry, you lose to the Seahawks. You lose to the 49ers. You lose to the Cowboys. All right. That was your chance to prove something, in my opinion. You failed to do that. And then now you have the Giants, Cardinals, Giants again. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm not someone who can look at this team and say you can prove anything to me over the next 3 weeks. At this point, now it's all about the playoffs, get in, and we'll see where the chips fall. Where do you see that?
That's how I am. Just go 13-4. Beat these bad football teams. The Cardinals stink. The Giants stink. I actually think the Cardinals could beat the Giants. In fact, didn't they play this year? I forget who won that game. That's how bad. That's how
Giants
bad
and Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who won that game. I know the Cardinals beat the Cowboys because that's
the Cardinals beat the Cowboys at home. The Giants and the Cardinals.
Giants beat the Cardinals 31-28.
Oh, that's right. That was the game where Daniel Jones went off. That was like the only game where the Giants offense actually did something.
Week
that's
2.
Right. The Cardinals. That's right. The Cardinals were up big in the first half and they blew it. So
yeah.
I mean,
Jones had 321 passing yards. The highlight of the season for sure for him.
Yeah, so you look at those teams and you say to yourself, what can the Philadelphia Eagles tell me about themselves in these next 3 weeks? For me, the most you can hope for is maybe establish a little bit of an offensive rhythm. That's the most you can hope for.
Yeah. But by the way, I don't believe in you have to win 41-14 to convince me. No, just win the football game. I know it's going to look ugly if they win. They should beat these teams 41-14, by the way. That's just how I feel. But I don't think there's anything they can do to convince me over the next 3 weeks outside of get right and get the 13-4, and hopefully you get the 2 seed and win the NFC East. That's all. But the Seattle game was the game to me because they were in Seattle, a place they haven't won since 2008. And again, I never thought that was a guaranteed win. I picked them to win, but I said it was going to be close. And Should have been. I think if they would have won that game, a lot of fans would have felt a lot better because then they would have been like, okay, you played the 49ers on 10 days rest. You played the Cowboys on 10 days rest. It was near the end of this gauntlet of a schedule, which you went 3-3, and which I think if someone would have told you 6 weeks ago the Eagles were going to go 3-3 in this gauntlet, I think you would have taken it. It's just how they went 3-3.
Yeah. Jeff, do you think Jalen's issues I'm talking general, not just the deep shots that we were discussing earlier, but do you think his issues of late are more him or coaching related in your estimation?
Ooh, that's a good one. Can I say both?
Yeah, you can. I mean, whatever you think is happening here.
I think Jalen does need to open up a little more. And in terms of he's a leader. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he needs to, and I love how he takes accountability for it. Like when he was saying about the commitment part, everybody kind of omitted the fact he went to himself first. No, it starts with me. I think that's going to resonate well in this locker room. But I know he talks to guys in there. He talks to Jason Kelsey, he talks to Marcus Mariota, but he talks to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, obviously. But I think he needs to go around and just kind of find out what's going on with the pulse of this football team. I know offensive guys and defensive guys normally kind of keep their own thing, but there's so many internal problems on the defensive side of the football compared to the offensive side of the football. I think that's what bothers me a bit. It's just the offense to me should be a well-oiled machine, and they're not. And I know what the problem with the defense is. There's multiple problems with the defense. And I think the Matt Patricia thing is a step in the right direction. So I just think Jalen needs to get a pulse of his team a little more. I know Monday was tough because of the flu. We've all had 103 fever. We know how you are. I'm shocked he went out there and tried to gut it out. And I love in hindsight now they're like, well, Marcus Mariota should play. I'm like, you don't want Marcus Mariota to play any other time.
No, I'll take a sick Jalen over a healthy Marcus Mariota. Give me a break.
Yeah, and no disrespect to Marcus. It's just I hate it when people do that in hindsight, by the way. But yeah, I just think Jalen just kind of needs to take a step back. I think he tries to do a little too much and tries to force the issue on the field. But I know they want Jalen to open up a little more in that locker room, and I think Jalen's one of those guys that can do that. So we'll see.
Do you think, and Tone, let me just hop in real quick on,
no problem.
On this. One more thing. Do you think that they would be – do you think Nick would take over the play call? I mean, look, Nick wants to tell you it's his scheme. So Nick, to me, wears a lot of this anyway. So I'm not saying this would even be better. But do you think Nick may take the step of taking this thing over in game from Brian Johnson? I'm just trying to find some kind of solution here to this.
But then what does Brian Johnson do?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's he here for? But by the way, do you guys worry if they would get rid of Brian Johnson, Jalen Hurts would get upset?
I think it's a consideration, but you can't ultimately let it be your end all deal.
That's a good question, Jeff, because when the season started, we talked about the fact that relationship could potentially help on the field, and I was of the mindset of, and I think we all were of this mindset that because of their relationship, it should be a seamless transition from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson. That clearly hasn't been the case. And then you have Nick Sirianni coming out saying, well, don't blame Brian Johnson, blame me. It's my game plan. So what do I blame Brian Johnson for, right? Do I blame Brian Johnson for the lack of offensive rhythm, continuity, or the fact that it looks disjointed when the play calling is going in, or the plays are coming in super late and they're using the whole damn play clock? I mean, what can I blame Jeff? What can I blame Brian Johnson for, Jeff?
I don't know, for being Jalen Hurts' buddy, I guess. I don't know.
Here, let me ask. Let me pose this to both of you guys. I'm not giving you an answer, Tone, necessarily, but are they too tight? Whereas, and I don't know, I'm just supposing that Shane Steichen might really, coach him up hard on something that maybe Brian wouldn't because they're buds. I don't know. I'm asking that. I'm not. That's not an accusation.
You know what? I don't even think this is a knock on Brian Johnson per se. I just think Shane Steichen is a really, really good football coach, and Eagles fans took him for granted how good of a football coach he was when I was literally telling them for 2 years, hey, this guy, we're lucky to have him 2 years. Justin Herbert loved Shane Steichen. I've talked to Justin Herbert time in and time out about his year with Shane Steichen, and he never actually said he wished he was still there, but he wished he was still there, just based on his results. And I wonder if Jalen would ever open up a shell, would feel the same way, even though Brian Johnson's his offensive coordinator, because Shane Steichen did a lot before Jalen Hurts. Like, he made Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback. He made Justin Herbert this record-setting quarterback. It's by the way, I am still again, this is just me covering the NFL. As someone who talks to Justin Herbert, likes Justin Herbert, thinks Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback, I can't believe Shane Steichen is not his head coach right now. I just can't believe it. He's head coaching in Indianapolis, and the Colts are going to benefit from it.
I mean, they could have had Peyton, or they could have had Steichen potentially. That owner, man, has got to get a clue. But
yeah,
anyway,
and it's like this all the time. Like, he fired Marty Schottenheimer for going 14-2.
Yep, he has
or
no
Norv
feel.
Turner.
Terrible.
Like,
he's an underrated bad owner in the NFL. Like, we always go after, like Snyder. We went after him, but that guy's in the top 5. But anyway,
there are a lot of bad owners. By the way. I'll never call Jerry Jones a bad owner, but sometimes I wish he'd just keep his mouth shut. Like, oh, we lost a football game on the road because of the weather. How about you lost a football game on the road because your quarterback might be the most overrated player in that?
And by the way, what do you think you may be playing in January?
Good
weather if you're on the road?
Weather. Yeah, that's what he's going to blame, like if he loses to Philly or San Francisco. But, a Cowboys fan will tell you, well, about that Week 14 win. Like, who cares? You always beat the Eagles out there.
I know.
Well, Jeff, while we have you, let's look at the playoff picture right on the NFC side. Since we're talking about the NFL level of things. As of right now, 49ers are number 1 seed, Cowboys are 2, Lions are 3, Buccaneers 4, Eagles 5, Rams 6, Vikings 7. If everything holds true, if everything stays exactly how it stays right now, Cowboys will face the Vikings, Lions will face the Rams, Buccaneers will face the Eagles. Obviously, 49ers get that bye. How would you predict those matchups playing out?
Oh, man. I mean, we got a lot of football left here, by the way. So.
No, yeah, of course. And again, this can change greatly. But, again, just as an exercise, right?
Yeah.
If everything held, how do you see the Cowboys faring against Vikings and so on and so forth?
The Cowboys would crush the Vikings, personally.
Right.
I think they crush them. I think the Eagles would crush whoever wins the NFC South. I'm assuming it's going to be Tampa. I mean, Tampa's a good team, don't get me wrong, but that division sucks. Like, the Saints should be winning that division, and they're not. They're just a bad football team. The Rams are going to be – the Rams-Lions could be a lot of fun.
Rams are dangerous, Jeff. They are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are. And Kyron Williams is healthy. Matthew Stafford's healthy. Puka Nacua. Like, it's funny how they were ridiculed for what they did 2 seasons ago. And they said all year, look, we needed to reset this football team. And they did. Give credit to Les Snead for hitting on late-round picks. Give credit to still believing in Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. And it's like, it wasn't a one-year wonder. It's just they needed to get rid of some bad contracts and reset some things, and they still had the key pieces in place. Like, I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl team by any mean, but no one expected this team to go to playoffs this year, and they're definitely going.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Let me ask you this just based off of that. Do you think the Eagles win the division? With what the Cowboys have left and the Eagles have left? You do. Okay, that's big.
I'm going to say this. The Eagles should win out. They should win out. They should be 13-4. I am going to laugh because there's a team that gets ridiculed probably more than the Cowboys for not beating good teams, and they're playing them Sunday, and the Dolphins. So it can't beat big team. Mike McDaniel can't. You know what? The Cowboys probably should beat the Dolphins.
That game's in Miami, by the way.
Yeah, they should beat them. Dallas is more talented than them. Dallas shouldn't lose to them. But something tells me they're going to. I don't know why. I think they're going to crush Detroit, and I think they're going to lose to Miami. So
Dallas loses one more in your estimation.
Yeah, I think they'll lose one more.
Get them the division.
Yeah, and they're still a really good football team. I really like the football team in general that Dallas built. It's just Mike McCarthy's their head coach and Jerry Jones is their owner, and Dak Prescott can only be. You guys know Dak Prescott has beaten I think the combined I've hold on, I gotta get the stat right. He has beaten his 2 playoff wins are against teams that have like a combined record of I think it's the winning percentage of the teams he's beaten in the playoffs are the worst for any quarterback in the NFL.
No kidding.
For multiple playoff wins.
Well, it would follow suit with how bad they are on the road. You know what I mean? It's like when the toughness factor needs to be there, the Cowboys generally don't step up to the task.
And again, I don't know why they didn't get as much criticism for losing to the Bills the way they did as they did. It's like, oh, okay, well, they're just not a good road team. Well, it's like you said, Rob. They got to play somebody on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if they had home field advantage, I would tell people straight up, they're going to Super Bowl. They should go to Super Bowl. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen unless the 49ers somehow falter, which I don't see that happening right now.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't either.
yeah.
Look, the game this week against the Ravens obviously is their biggest challenge the rest of the regular season, but I think they win that game.
Yeah, and they can afford to lose it too because the Eagles lost.
You're right. You're right. I forgot about that. You're right about that. They have to lose 2 basically.
Yeah, like I'm curious to see if that last game against the Rams should mean something for San Francisco, but
Yeah.
I kind of want to measure how the Rams are compared to how the 49ers are. I know how the 49ers are. And if you got Chris McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel healthy, this 49ers team they're the best team in the NFL. But, but if they don't, if one of them somehow gets hurt, then you got to wonder who comes out of the NFC.
That's a good
Exactly.
point. That's a good point. Jeff, listen, man, always appreciate it. And again, I think you're a great follow on social media.
Definitely.
Because you put some great stuff, not only your stories, but great stats and whatnot, things that always catch my eye, which I use on the show and give you your props. But at Jeff Kerr CBS is how you follow him, and also cbssports.com. Jeff, listen, again, happy holidays to you and yours, man. Appreciate it. I know you're going to be working like we are, but enjoy, all right?
Yeah. You know what, guys? Today is actually my Monday. So I'm going to Eagles practice right after this. And,
Gotcha.
With all the games going on this weekend. By the way, did you guys see on Peacock this weekend, they're going commercial-free fourth quarter?
No, I didn't know that.
Commercial-free fourth quarter. Okay.
That's kind of crazy. I'm curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, how that looks, right? What that product looks like. Yeah.
So they'll keep the announcers' mics hot? Like they'll be –
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
That's what I was told. They're going to do just straight up, and it's going to be a lot fewer commercials, and maybe that's the future of the league right now with this streaming stuff. It's, hey, look, we're going to put games on streaming, but we're going to cut out the commercials because we don't need them because you're paying us anyway.
Right. We got to give you some kind of advantage to make it a little bit different. Yeah, who knows? But you're right. We could be seeing more of that kind of stuff.
You guys remember, too, there's a playoff game exclusively on Peacock this year.
Yeah, people will love that.
Yeah.
They're going to be
I can't wait till people complain about that.
People are going to lose their minds, man.
And you know what? It'll probably be the Eagles game.
Probably will. You're right.
Oh my God, that'd be terrible.
My God. All right, Jeff. Good stuff as always, my friend. We appreciate you hopping on. All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care. That is Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Always does a great job, Tone. That's for sure. All right, let's get a quickie. When we come back, and Tone doesn't even know we're doing this, but when we come back,
oh man, here we go.
I'm going to throw over unders for this game Tone's way. All right. You're good at this. You're seasoned enough that you can handle it on the fly, man.
Okay, because our over unders have been sucking over the past.
We have sucked. Yeah, to say the least. Do you think the Eagles have been bad? Oof.
I blame them.
I'm blaming them. Why not? We can't blame ourselves. 12:30, JAKIB is going to join us, so we'll talk to JAKIB. We'll get his impressions on what's going on with the Birds and preview this game against the Giants. NFL segment, like I said, Rams beat the Saints last night. They 30-22 was the final. They're certifiably hot. They've won 5 of their last 6. So we'll talk about that game. We'll give you an update on a couple things with Geno Smith, some injuries, and we're going to look at the best games of Week 16. So we got a lot to do. Don't go anywhere. That's Tone DeShields. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's tell you about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances is a challenge, right? It can be a very scary proposition too, because you work too hard not to have your money work for you. But I can tell you from personal experience that Jim and Principal Financial Group are the people that I trust with my hard-earned work. All right, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you might have a small business and you need help getting your employee benefits off the ground. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. I personally have entrusted my IRA and my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call right now, 610-996-4751. 610-996-4751. You could also email him as well, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.